it says recording.
It does
So
say it's recording.
that feels different because I thought that I had to confirm something.
It did something different for sure
It did
last
something
time.
different that last time. Okay.
Um,
But we're confident. This is it's saying
I'm
recording.
confident.
It can't be any clearer than that.
It says
Recording.
recording. And I've got a
We're
button that
going.
says stop recording. So,
Okay. So we're going through all this because last time we lost half a call,
and
and
the thing that was left wasn't worth keeping.
it wasn't worth keeping, and it set us back 2 months, 3 months. It felt like it put like a big hurdle in the way. Like I
It
think
knocked
everyone
my
like
confidence, Dave. It knocked the
it did.
confidence because
Yeah.
it's quite disheartening to think that you've done something. Do you ever kind of get halfway through writing like a work email and then you lose it or whatever, and you just cannot bring yourself to write it again? And it can be
Hmm.
days before you do it again. I can't do something
Yeah.
twice.
That's me
Yeah.
with Photoshop stuff is if it's been a while since I've saved, it's less of an issue. It used to be more of a thing when before I got into all my good habits, but I save pretty regularly, but sometimes you can make a few big changes on a giant file, so everything's kind of creaking along, and then it just spins and spins, and then just when it vanishes on you, and you're just like, oh God. I've definitely
Your
had some.
your work files, how many layers do they end up with? Like, are you one of these guys that ends up with like hundreds and hundreds of layers,
Yeah, hundreds of
all
layers.
unlabeled?
No, labeled quite well actually. I'm really I've got quite good at that. If it's just for me, then it doesn't matter. I don't I'll label them if I need them. But if somebody else might see the file, which sometimes happens, or quite often I will have like I've got a few automations that will automatically name a layer if I'm doing a thing, or sometimes I want to do something where I want to be able to select a bunch of layers that are all in different little groups in different parts of a drawing. And if they've all got the same name, like if I want to recolor every tree in a big drawing of a city that has trees in it, if I make sure every tree layer is labeled tree, I can filter all layers labeled tree and recolor them all in one go, and it saves
Okay.
so much time. But that's all. That's what experience gets you. Is
Yeah.
like you kind of. I was talking to Alex recently, and somebody at the skate park actually was talking to me about just work stuff. He kind of figured out that I do art stuff, and I think he's interested in art and bits and pieces. And he was asking this and this. And he's like, "Oh, have you ever seen this person on Instagram?" And I was like, it was every question he had. I was like, oh yeah, I know that person. And then he's like, do you ever have any experience with graffiti? And I'm like, no, but I had like 5 years where I was like part of a collective with a bunch of graffiti people. And like everything, I was like, all right, this is what you get when you're 41 is like yeah you have an experience like you have a history of things behind you, and I was
Yeah.
pulling things that were like nearly 20 years back, and I'm like, yeah, I've done that. I went there, I did this, and it's like, oh wow, like yeah, just in the moment everything feels really small and nothingy,
Yeah.
and then when you that's just I guess that's just a life, isn't
You're a
it? But
veteran. You're
yeah,
a veteran in
yeah,
the design world.
that's
Um,
me.
my wife's Photoshop files are probably if you opened them, you just have a panic attack. It's I don't know how she does it. Um,
Yeah.
it's wild.
Yeah, because your wife's work, I don't know your wife and I don't know her work super well, but lots of like really organic illustrations, lots of
Yeah.
plants and things. So it's hard to
And
imagine like how much happens in Photoshop, but she does like she uses like some of that for commercial projects and stuff, doesn't she?
yeah,
So
she does.
that's
Yeah.
where you need to start like converting things and making sure it all works at different resolutions. And everyone always wants vector versions of everything. It's like, "Oh, mate, I draw on a bit of paper. Like this is going to be a nightmare."
And like her stuff, because when she's doing her own bits, she just does it. It's kind of it's one and done. Her print
Yep.
style is like hundreds of different pieces and she puts it all through a roller and it prints it as one and it's done. But for clients, it's she has to scan like each individual bit and then she'll compose it in Photoshop because they'll be like, oh, can you move this leaf?
Hmm.
Because that's
Hmm.
where the letter's going to go for the chocolate or whatever. And it's you can't do that if you just slammed it through the press and it's done.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
unmovable.
Yeah.
Um,
That's again, like I think part of the way that I draw and illustrate and compose things now is completely informed by keeping it flexible right until the last minute. So if I've
right.
got quite an elaborate drawing, it's like jigsaw together out of all those little bits, but I often use it as a selling point. If I ever need to kind of speak to a client about maybe working on a project, I use that as a selling point. I'm like, look, and I have like files made up that I can just sit and show them. Like these bits all come apart. And then you can absolutely use that as a selling point because it's like, see if you want to like have a little graphic on your website, we could pull out these three bits and sit
Yeah.
them along here, and you get a whole new illustration as part of it. And that's just pure like commercial artist head, I think, is
I
like,
might set you up to do a podcast with Emma, maybe for
oh
the
wow.
oh
Art, Photoshop,
my
just
God.
yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of that. That'd be funny though. Like I don't know.
You've been working
Like
loads recently though.
I've been working a lot. I'm feeling really good about it. I don't know what shifted just around the Easter holidays, maybe just before it. I can't remember what job kicked it off. There was a couple of jobs. I was trying to clear my feet. I've been trying to clear my feet of like three or four projects for a long time, never getting anywhere with them. And then I was like, all right, I'll maybe dig into this one today. And then somebody came to me with another job, and I was like, ah, it's too good to turn down. So I kind of got them both done in like 2 days, and they were kind of big, and I was like, whoa, that felt good. Like I kind of was able to breathe out a bit. And
Yeah.
then the next day, I just kind of came to work and did something else that had been hanging over me. And then somebody else came to me with a thing, and I was like, yeah. And then that one came together, and like a few things all came together really well and quickly. And then I've just felt like I've had momentum, like I'm absolutely just feeling like I'm using my time well. And I've got loads of free time and stuff like it's been a nice little stretch, like touch wood and all this kind of stuff that something's
Yeah.
going to go wrong. But it feels like, all right, this is how I should have been working all along rather than putting off five different things and feeling bad about it. And then like skating was a form of procrastinating, I
Yeah.
suppose. You know, you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
can justify a bit of exercise, and half the day goes, and now I can like, I'll come in and I'll do a couple of hours, and then I can skate because I'm like, oh, I got all that stuff done, and
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
come back
Yeah.
and do some more, and it feels so much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you go
You
through
gotta sort
anything
of
like
judge
with
that.
that? You seem like you're very good at your job from what I pick up. Does it all just kind of you kind of just turn on work mode and it just happens.
I don't really have a choice. It's the kind of job where it's like, um, you just got to be really on all the
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
And I manage my own time completely. So no one's like pressing me to kind of do X and Y and Z or whatever, but it's like everyone can see your performance, everyone can
Hmm.
see kind
Hmm.
of commercially kind of how you're doing. So it's like um if I want to do well in December this year, I need to do the work now, right?
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
kind of the kind of like lag time. Um but like if I have a really good start to the week, then I don't feel so bad about having a longer lunch and kind of
Hmm.
getting a skate in or when the weather's like this and I'm working from home, it's hard. I do find it
Yeah.
really hard. Um, but I just got to
Yeah.
make sure I've like stacked in advance. If I started the week by having a long lunch and a big skate, the whole week is just fucked for me. Like
Hmm.
it would
Hmm.
just throw me off. It's got to be like I've got to feel like I've earned it, I think.
Yeah. I can feel that. I do smaller versions of that. I've definitely started using like going out for a skate as a little reward. It's
Yeah,
like I can, I'm not going out until I've done these three things. And these three things can be small, but they are three things that I may Like I will stretch out until the end of the day,
Yeah,
but it's
like
like
getting
no,
invoices out or something. Something
yeah,
really
yeah.
boring like fucking doing tax or whatever.
Easy stuff, but if you stretch them out, then they just hang over you and they get in the way of starting like an actual bit of work. So I'll just be like, look, these three, if these three things happen, then I can go out at lunchtime and not feel bad. And it just makes it work. It never used to make it work. I used to tell me the same thing, and I go through stretches where it still doesn't work, and I go out anyway. But for whatever reason, this last month or two, it's been working. So I'm trying to just keep that going because yeah, there's a weight off that I've been enjoying a lot. Uh,
I find that thing where you if I kind of don't sit down to start working till like 10 because of like something,
hmm
the whole day is just off the rails and it's kind of unrecoverable. I'm almost like, well, it's nearly 10, so it's nearly lunchtime. So
Yeah,
and then lunchtime comes around and I'm like, oh, okay, let's get going. But it never
you
really
like
clicks into gear. Like I'd much rather if I could, if I can manage my time completely on my own, I'd probably want to like log on for work at 7 and do like
hmm
7 till 3 and just be done with it. But
I used to my dream work scenario. I always used to envy. You ever read anything about like writers like who would all seem to work like the best writers, or not the best writers, but a lot of writers would get up. They'd like put in like 3 or 4 hours before the day started. Like they'd get up at like
yeah,
5, 6, do it, and then be like, they're done. Like you can't. You've only got so if you're writing like at that high level, you've only got a few hours a day in you anyway before
yeah,
you'll completely fry you. And
yeah,
if you're a
totally.
kind of person who operates well in the morning, then just get them done. And then I was so jealous. It's like they had a whole day, like just a free day, you know, because they'd done their work.
Oh
They'd done
man,
their
I would
work.
love a free day.
Yeah. But
But
every
I
day was like that. Like, and
crazy.
obviously these we're talking about your Stephen Kings and your people who are like making livings and they're getting all their money. They're fine for money and
You need
will
money in
always
the
be
bank
fine
to
for
do
money.
that, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't do that without money in the bank.
Yeah. You need to know
Um,
somebody's going to buy whatever you're writing or however that works. Like you're like
yeah.
if you're an established enough writer, you just write your book and somebody's going to do something with it.
With Stephen
Um
King, I don't I've not really read much Stephen King. I've only read a few of the classics, but is he still churning out good shit? Or
I
is
don't know.
he
He's an odd character. I dip in and out of Stephen King a little bit. There's a couple of his things that I really love. Like I'm a bit of a horror person. I should read more horror books. Although his horror books never quite do it for me because they always end up like he'll have a really idea and then he goes like cosmic too much for me. Like he goes like, oh, it becomes this whole kind of existential life and death, end of the world, this ancient evil kind of thing. And sometimes I just want a
um
smaller, spookier. It's scarier when it's smaller
yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
agree.
but I think he still works a lot. I've not read any. I've read a few of the classics. There's a short story collection that I love, and I'll dip into every now and again just to reread it. And I really like the book on writing. It's like half autobiography, half tips about writing.
Yeah,
Like,
I've heard about
it's
this book. I've not read it, but
it's really good.
it's
Yeah.
pretty transformative.
So that you read that and you feel like, all right, I kind of know Stephen King, even though I've probably only read like 5 of his books, maybe, and
Yeah.
seen a few of the films and then read a few, I don't know, blog posts and stuff, and you think you're an expert. But he's an
Like I
interesting character.
I wonder if he's got like a team around him because you think about like I don't know, let's take an equivalent of like LeBron James. Like he's not just a man, he's like a team. There's like there's like 50 people behind LeBron James. He's got like a manager and an agent and a coach and the guy that brings his ice and all this kind of stuff. Like he is propped up by all these people. And I wonder if Stephen King could kind of churn out quite a lot of bullshit. And then someone else's job is to kind of like sift it, edit it, refine it,
Hmm.
come
Hmm.
back to him and kind of convince him that actually that these were actually his ideas and can we like I wonder how that works was like if the Stephen King just like go poof, there's the manuscript like print that or if he's like
He's, I would imagine, like, and I don't, this is where somebody who's a Stephen King expert is like cringing, but like, I would imagine he'll have found an editor. Like, that would be the ideal situation. Like, you find an editor that works really well with you, that you trust, and is bold enough to, like, shoot down stuff that isn't working. But that seems to be it seems to be a problem with anyone who has success. You seem to get it in film a lot where you get powerful enough. Like, it's the famous thing about the Star Wars films, like when George Lucas got powerful enough that nobody would tell him no, then the films all just become like these. It's like any idea just gets indulged, and
yeah
you need somebody like keeping you in line and telling you like. And the best artists are the ones who understand that about themselves. I heard an amazing thing about Danny Boyle making Train Spotting, and when they were starting that out, he they called it a blood pact. Whether they made a real blood pact or not, I don't know. But they had a blood pact before they started, and they were like, "This in no world let this film be longer than 90 minutes." I think was the thing. Like, it's like no
yeah
matter what, no matter how good the
it's a good pact on any
the
film
stuff,
I reckon.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And he's like, it's going to be too intense, it's going to be too full on. You will completely fry the audience if this goes on too long. You want it to feel and then out.
Yeah
And
yeah
like that was the mindset from the get go. Like, and they could have had it's like, oh, we've got 2 hours of amazing footage. We need to use it, and that seems to be the problem. That was like, and it's like, no, no, we've got our blood pack. It needs to be 90, no matter what. It needs to be
I
90,
like that.
and yeah, you need stuff like that. You need these. We've talked about it before, constraints and all that make things better.
Yeah
They.
yeah like a good music producer. um I've worked with a couple of people kind of in the studio, some that just kind of let you do your thing
Hmm.
and some
Hmm.
that kind of just are like I think this sounds good. I think we should.
Hmm.
You think this song is this, but it's actually this, and you kind of just. I think if you fight against that too much, you're doomed.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's tough.
And all the music thing, there's a lot of people trying the kind of danger of sounding too polished when you get too successful is like one of the main things. That's where you end up with or just the temptation of change, like your Kings of Leon style bands who started as one like thing and then got a smell of something else and yeah, I don't know.
It must
No,
be
that.
really hard though,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's I always use Block Party as my kind of reference for this because they could have just done that first record over and over again, and they just refused to. And what they ended up with is like a really patchy
Hmm.
record
Hmm.
kind of history. There's lots of good songs scattered across it, but I've always respected the fact that they didn't just do Silent Alarm 6 times because they could have just done that. But then when you go from playing like a little club where the ceiling's like this high and it's sweaty and there's like 100 people to playing like an arena, you need different songs to play an
Oh
arena.
yeah, because it
It
doesn't work, and
it
that's a
doesn't work.
frustrating
You
thing
need
as a.
Sex on Fire for the arena. You can't do the arena without it.
Oh
A mate of
yeah.
mine played in a covers band. He played like almost every day in this covers band, and they did 2 gigs a day. And at one point, he
Jeez.
calculated he reckoned he played Sex on Fire more times than Kings of Leon. He like looked at their tour schedule and he was like, they do about 100 shows a
Oh,
year. He was like, I do like 250.
oh my
Um,
God.
so fucking funny, man.
Well, yeah, yeah. There'll be a lot of people who can probably make that claim.
Yeah, there would be. There would be. He's like,
Bloody
I
hell.
can't stand that song. It's like that is it's that and Mr. Brightside.
Ah, Get Lucky as well. There'll be a lot
Get
of that.
lucky. Can you imagine doing that one? Because I'm happy. Imagine playing that
Oh, I
twice a
hate
day,
that song. I
every
hate that
day.
song.
You can like
Yeah.
it for the first 20 times, maybe. I remember the first time I heard that song, I was like, all right. And
Hmm.
now I'm just like, fucking hell.
Yeah, it's on my kids' car playlist, and even they skip it. I kind of just tell them like I don't like this very much. It's funny, like that. That really tests what you can put up with is what the kids want. Like a lot of they discover the weirdest things. Like and I kind of find it heartening that some things are still like big with the kids. Like Cotton Eye Joe is still massive.
How
Like
has
what
that
it
had legs?
I don't know. But like I something came on and I was saying to Beth, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, there's this song I bet you'll like, and I played it, and she's like, oh, this is good, like put this on my playlist, and I did that, and then I thought, all right, right, okay, I get that Beth likes Cotton Eye Joe because it's a funny song, fun, high energy. It's just I remember being at a school disco and like being like,
Yeah,
this is the best shit ever.
yeah.
And so I thought, right there, she's this thing that's this relic. But like, she's coming to me like, oh yeah, yeah, my friend at school likes Cotton Eye Joe too. And I was like, how do they know? It's like, oh, I don't know. Like, and like everyone seemed to separately just know Cotton Eye Joe. They all know Cotton Eye Joe. They all know the Macarena. They all know
Some of the
something
stuff,
else. Yeah.
I think Fortnite is quite good for this,
Mm.
because they kind of there's hundreds, if not thousands, of emotes that you can get or win, and quite a lot of them are like remixed old songs. Because there's that
Hmm.
big thing of like the slowed and reverbed music style, and that's what they used in that Rosis video with Bobby and
Yes,
Nils,
yes.
right? It's like a slowed down, reverbed thing. Um, and then you get there's Cotton Eye Joe, and then there's this like meme version of it where the words are slightly different. Um, but
So
all of
does
this,
it does it play a little snippet of the song when you do
you can
the?
just do the dance and it'll play a little snippet. And some of
Right,
it's quite
okay.
modern music. It will be like Olivia Rodrigo or whoever. But quite a lot of them are things like 80s, never gonna
Yeah,
give you up. And the
yeah,
kids think
yeah.
that's quite funny. So it's kind of coming around in this weird alternative way to the point where my eldest sometimes listens to stuff that's quite old. And if you think about some of the music that was in like early skate videos as well, that was some of that was like a throwback to kind of, you know, I listened to Bob Dylan
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
heard it in
Oh
skate videos.
yeah,
I wouldn't have
yeah.
done that otherwise, probably.
The variety was really important. The video groove videos that I know, 4, 5, and 6, pretty much. I used to, that used to kind of blow my mind as a kid. Because I guess before I ever saw a skate video, I thought I knew what it was going to be. It was going to be, like kind of punky music and hip hop. And then they're throwing in kind of there's a lot of soul songs and there's a lot of
Yeah,
like they'll put in a disco song and they'll put in a like and I was like, oh, all right, like this stuff's all okay. And I liked that nobody at school was getting exposed to any of this stuff. And then
yeah.
you kind of hold on to some of those songs, and when you start buying music, this has all changed because obviously anyone can just look up anything. But when you start like hunting out and trying to hunt out trying to get the artist from the credit and then going and
Yeah.
finding the album that has the song on it. And then if you like the album, then you buy another album. And that's just discovering music. You could do the same thing by hearing a song on a advert, I suppose. I
But it's
remember,
but the fact that you love the skating, there's songs that I loved that I actually don't know if I even liked the song, but the connection was really powerful.
hmm,
VG was
hmm,
quite good for doing that. I've got
yeah,
a playlist of lots of these songs, and I think probably I only like them because of the connection to skating. I used to use Kazaa and
hmm,
all these
hmm,
sorts of things, to set it downloading like 9 o'clock at night and you go to bed and you'd hope that in the
Yeah.
morning the song was finished and you put it on your MP3.
You hope you didn't have 10 viruses in a porn video.
Yeah, yeah. Kids don't have to
Um,
worry about that anymore.
oh mate, it's stressful. Stressful restarting the computer 5 times in a row, like trying to. There was one thing, me and my pal. Oh, welcome to our rollerblading podcast, by the way.
We haven't talked about it once.
Me and my pal had there was I can't remember. I could find the name of it. There was one virus thing that got Windows computers way back when, and my pal and I both got it at the same time, and I finally did it. But it gave you this like little 30-second window to do something, to and if you didn't do it, like it kind of shut down your computer. It was something like I'm half misremembering it. And so every time you had to, and computers took forever to start up. So you
Yeah.
started your computer up and you could only do like one of the steps at a time. It's like, I need to move this file here and that, like, right now, let it
There's some
all
like
reset
deep
and
seated
stuff like
anxiety that's like you're bringing. I feel like I'm about to break into a sweat. Like I remember being like, I have fucked my computer
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
trying to steal music. And yeah, you know, when you're like slamming like F12 or whatever to open the system boot or whatever it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
like just sweating and just seeing like,
Ah.
oh,
And you're just trying to sometimes you're trying to get something done as well. Like at some point I was like, yes, some of that stuff would still be going on when I was studying. So I would be like trying to do college work or something like that. And I'm doing all this bullshit. And that
yeah,
way where your time management is out the window. So it's 2 in the morning. The light bulbs from the lamps used to get so hot. So I remember the room would just end up
yeah,
getting hot. Computers roasting.
yeah.
It'll be June or something like that. So you're just like, oh, and like you're just
Fucking
trying to
hell, man.
finish this project that's due tomorrow, and your computer's on a having a meltdown. So
There's
bad.
an argument that there's a very small generational window of millennials um, who know how to use the internet properly, and then the people
Hmm.
before don't, and the people afterwards don't.
Hmm.
But there's this I don't know what it would be. I reckon it's probably people that are like probably now sort of 35 to sort of 45 maybe,
Hmm.
um, who know how to do basic things like
I saw some. There is some
add a
kind of
printer, rotate a PDF, like all this kind of normal
rotate a
stuff.
PDF. I think is the meme one I've seen going on. Like we're the one generation that knows
We're
how
the only
to.
ones that can do it. And
Yeah,
a friend of mine at work who I love to bits, he's brilliant, but he's younger than me. And he's like, I don't know how to add a thing. And I'm like, just fucking put into Google, rotate PDF.
yeah.
And he's going, yeah, but you know, these sites are full of viruses. I don't know where to click. And I'm like, well, obviously, the trick is you press the button and you go back and you delete the advert and you do that. You might need to do that 5 times and then it'll work and then you can download it. But don't download the first thing because that's the virus. Download the second thing. That's the real thing. And I'm
All the
doing
stuff
this
that's
on
just
autopilot. Like
instinctive, isn't it? It's just become instinctive. It's like burned in, like every little trick.
it's a lost
Yeah.
like because you learn how to navigate that stuff in a really painful way. Um,
To get a 10-minute timer. And the first
it's
one
30
is no
minutes of not
mention
skate. It's
rollerblading.
do you know what's so funny though is I'm so with skating because I guess we probably should. Um, I got two things. I got like kind of like my interest in skate industry
Hmm.
barometer doing this, and then my interest in like actually physically going skating. And they're usually both high, right? But at the moment, it's like this. Like
Okay,
I love
okay.
skating. I want to skate all the time, and my interest in like actually what's going on in skating, videos, content industry is like probably never been lower.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
probably healthy, but um,
You've been putting stuff on the site. I just looked today and I was like, oh my God, I've not even been on this bloody thing in weeks. It's like, all right, I've got all these things to do.
recreational.lol.
Yeah.
That is the home for the
Well,
point of that, I suppose, and because we've never talked about it or promoted it, and that's why we
um,
get 9 views a day, and they're probably mostly our mates. But the idea was to just sift out the kind of there's a lot of stuff, but I think
hmm.
there's real stuff and then there's just kind of content. And
Hmm.
so the
Hmm.
idea was to
Hmm.
try and kind of have a bit of a best of the best. Like if you're gonna at the end of the year, if you go to our website, that should be all the stuff that's worth watching to help you decide what this year looked like. Forget skater of the year, but just kind of like what did this year look like? That's the stuff that
Yes,
matters.
yes. And
There's a lot of it though. Like, I don't know how many videos we put up. There's probably like maybe 40. You know, it's like
mhm.
a good it's a good like 10 a month of just really
I'm
good
gonna
high
try and
quality things.
we'll every so often we'll give it a nice refresh about how it all works. But yeah, the plan is also to kind of have this system that we can put up quite casually, like low maintenance, low effort to kind of get stuff there. But then if it's got a solid enough little foundation where you can just filter stuff, like show me every full length video from a
Yeah.
given year that
Yeah,
we've
I've not been
added.
tagging stuff, so it's not very
No.
useful for that
But
yet.
like
But
going back through and doing the tags is easy, and then we can filter out maybe
yeah,
this is our 2025 page. Just make a page for it, and
yeah,
have
just dump
do
it
all
off.
that. Just do that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, just it's nice to have. It's nice to have a little place, a little home to do stuff. And if we
Well,
think of
what's your favorite thing from this year so far?
from this year, let me look at the website.
Da da
Um,
da, recreational.lol.
view all latest. Do 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 do.
I'm gonna do the same
I
thing. I think I know
John
what my favorite is, but
There's obviously the biggest one is this Inferno, isn't it? The
yeah,
Soul Inferno thing. Like that I'm glad to see all three of those guys feeling like they're part of the conversation with all the weird stuff that nobody knows what's going on with Rosie's, nobody knows this or that. It's nice to see that they are still caring and doing relevant stuff and being like getting the credit for it as well. Like having a lot of people seem to acknowledge like this is really good. These guys are doing really good stuff. Spassoff in particular, I think we've talked about him before, often gets a bit of a bum deal the way that often people will talk about him or think about him or just not quite appreciate like
yeah,
he's a guy that's got a vision and he's trying to do stuff and he's thinking he's more thoughtful about a lot of this and he's behind the scenes on a lot of this stuff as well. He's
yeah,
doing
he
a lot of the
is.
filming and he's putting in work
I got a lot
and
of
he
time for Bobby. I think he's his own worst enemy sometimes. Um, but I can't fault his kind of at least over the last kind of 12 months, 18 months. Um, I thought that edit was really sick. It was hammers are hammers are back for sure. Like uh and I think that's to me that's quite a surprising shift. Like quite a few of the edits recently have had some really surprisingly big gnarly tricks that I think there's always been that, and I've always struggled with this concept of like there's no hammers. I think people just make them look so good that you don't.
hmm.
It's
Hmm.
hard to appreciate how good some of this stuff is. Like Nils, if you look at every Nils edit for the last 10 years, there's no change
Yeah, yeah.
in the size of the stuff that he's hitting. It's ludicrous. Bobby too. Um, but I have noticed that there's just a bit of a reversion to like quite big spins onto rails and quite gnarly rails. And yeah, the size has gone up, which is weird because there's sort of like the reward for doing it has
There's
sort of
never been lower.
probably never been lower.
Yeah. And the
Um,
reward for doing little stuff has probably never been higher as well.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah,
but I don't know. It must. There's possibly a lot of people like, all right, it's I gotta go big. This is like the last little window I have to go big before I'm
yeah.
just incapable of it anymore.
Like Billy
Um,
O'Neill did not need to backslide Staples.
no,
He didn't need to go and do that. You know, he's already got the best trick done on that spot. Did you had you come
that's
back to skating
obscene.
when?
Like no, I know that trick though, the one over the rail to the
Yeah.
sole is
You
so
weren't
nuts.
skating around that because that was
No.
kind of like there's a really cool period there of around like the Haitian videos and the sort of the start of SSM and the kind of quite quick death of SSM. There's a window there where everything was pretty fucking cool.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that happened right at the end of all of that stuff.
That trick, it's specifically because I watched some kind of roundup of tricks that have been done on staples, and I think they even included a BMX trick or two. And I thought
I
that
know the guy,
that
it's Scorbeck, who does these like it's all the tricks on this one
hmm
spot,
hmm
right?
hmm
There'll be some
But they
skateboarding in
should
there
have like
too.
because that one trick like nobody would care about the backslide. I'm just thinking skateboarder brain. They just went, all right, okay, jumped on it and slid down it. But the over the rail thing is a little example of like an appreciable, however you would say that, um, take on the spot that is like
Yeah,
super gnarly. Um, that I think would go down well with any audience, really, because it's still simple enough. It's not like
yeah,
nobody again would care if he 540'd onto a true Mizzou,
yeah.
but just jumping over that rail
Jump the
is
thing.
just horrible looking. It looks
Yeah,
so scary and so awkward and so dangerous. And just like the commitment needed and the power needed is like you can just look at it and be like, right, it's one, that's the idea and that's all it needed. It didn't need
yeah.
anything more than that.
It's
It's
perfect.
really good. Yeah.
It's probably not the hardest trick done on that spot,
Hmm.
and some people might shoot me down on that, and they might be right. This isn't like a fully considered thought, but like that ledge is really high, and it's really easy to just fuck yourself on it. And I actually think
Hmm.
just going like full blast at like a big gap to soul, you could obviously wreck yourself on it. Um, but and I think it's the best trick done on that
Hmm.
spot,
Hmm.
just for all the reasons. But like Happy Tree pawned it, and I that feels to me it feels like a short, a quicker way to fuck yourself up is trying to true pawn that ledge.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like gun to my head, I think I'd probably just like get towed in by the car and try and solve it. Like, um,
Well,
not that I
I
could
don't know.
picture doing either. Like, I don't.
I bet it looks so
Happy was really
big
good
in
at
real
those
life.
kind of things. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's a rewind where Billy goes and looks at it, and it's it's ludicrous. And the risk is really high. I think about how easy it would be to sort of like get all twisted up
Hmm.
on.
Hmm. Yeah, you
Um,
just missed that sole foot on the
I
true
think Happy
porn
did
and
true
it's
front
jumping in.
salve on it at one point, and I just like if that back foot doesn't quite, you're falling backwards off of like an 8 foot high ledge that's going downstairs, so you're really kind of falling like 15 feet.
And going a fair
Um,
clip as well to get on it in a way that you're not having to just jump straight up like you're doing is that
seamless edit. It's about this.
it's on a different level. Like people like Halfy in those videos from the kind of little period before I came back to it. The scale of it and there's something about and partly it'll be the kind of always quite low quality of the footage as well
Yeah,
and how fast people go. And like it's off. I often feel like when I think of that era, I think of like big launches to like grinds, where like gaps to grinds and all of this kind of stuff on big scary obstacles. But in my head, it never feels like anyone's actually like really doing a grind with like their weight on it and having to worry in that like everything feels like flying through it. And I know that's not true because you just look at it and kind
yeah,
of do the thing and it's like but everything just feels like this weirdly kind of weightless kind of I don't know, people were just
yeah,
that good and went that fast and like because you see it just even at Winter Clash it's like you see it's like all right this is on a scale and a like precision. You can't just like chuck yourself at it and scrape your feet and be done. Like you have to
Yeah,
really do it. But in my head, it never registers. Oh, Shima in particular is like that. Like I always think of him like doing super long like back royales on ledges, like on a square ledge. So you kind of you need to be on that in a kind of way, or you'll just kind of tip off. But for
yeah,
miles at maximum speed, potentially with a gap
yeah.
onto it, and it doesn't register in any way as the same activity as what I'm trying to do on a little
Okay.
skateboard ledge. It's
Top tier
madness.
skateboard, top tier skating is just like completely unrelatable.
Hmm.
Um, and when you see it, and I've been to basically like every one of the big spots in London, and stood there and looked at them. And when I was a lot younger, I looked at some of them and I sort of contemplated them and didn't do it.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but it's just the confidence that some people can hit that with. It's I don't know.
It's
That
nuts.
Carlos Bernal True Mizu. That was
Yeah.
so funny because he did a post on that and he was like, "Guess what trick I did?" And one of the hashtags was Hurricane Topsail. And so the
That
the assumption is
he
that
his hashtag. No.
he posted a
But
picture
he
of the
didn't
trick
add the hashtag to it.
at
No,
the
is
spot.
it
The
right?
spot.
Okay.
No, he did. He did. He was like, "Guess what trick? Guess the trick." And one of
Uh-huh.
the hashtags was Hurricane Topsail.
Oh,
And so
what
I
a
was like,
dafty.
he Hurricane Topsailed it, which is just a I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if you've ever been to that spot, but like your heart just kind of drops just looking at it, right? There's a small one,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of somewhat doable, not for me, but for, I can see that
Like
people would
still a
session
gap
that.
out to it, do you mean?
Yeah, and those forum ledges are really high.
Mm-hmm.
I've only skated them a couple of times, but I really struggled, like because the run up for the easy ones is kind of at 90 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
ones that
Because
like
you're like
you'll see
halfway
most
down
people
you're
skate.
halfway down the stair set, aren't you? Because you've got
Yeah,
that you just got
yeah.
the flat bit. Yeah.
So you got to come in at 90 degrees and do this funny little turn, but they're high. They're like
Mm-hmm.
handrail height, if not a tiny bit more. Um, so they're quite hard. So the gap out one is I can see why people would session it, but it's fucking hard. But
Mm-hmm.
the big gap one that he does, like you're looking at it and the top of the ledge is lower than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you're up here, the
Yeah.
thing's down here. So you're not just gapping to it, you have to drop to it. And there's a video of Julian Barr from kind of way back in the Black Market video where he just goes for a gap topsail and he locks it and he washes out and then he goes for it again and he misses and he just fully kind of like hits his hip bone on it.
Mm.
And you think you've got to go really fast. So anyway, I see this hashtag and I'm like, Hurricane Topsail, that's wild. Because Cyril Daniel did 450 back royale on it. I don't know if you've seen that, but it
I might
was
have done. I might. I feel like
it
I've
was
seen
kind of
something in
sketch.
it. Like, oh,
He
that's.
did he didn't get nearly enough credit for that actually, but he was quite an unusual skater where most people just found fairly or unfairly, most people just found him pretty unwatchable, I
Hmm.
suppose.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just one of these like horrendously good kind of spin to win, but kind of it was very hard to love it.
Yeah, and
Somewhat fair to him.
a lot of that stuff, a wee bit like what I was saying about the Shima stuff. When things get that nuts, it like just feels like a fluke or something like that. It's like you somehow just can throw yourself at things and something happens and it's not. We were on the Slack we go on. We were watching a Brosco clip of him doing the front side to backslide on that skate park, right?
Yeah.
Like on his stories, and it's like the that's you can just see like, all right, that's so purposeful and like still a really difficult thing, but like you can understand it. And then that compared to somebody who's like, blah, 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 and like something happened, and it
Yeah.
feels again like two very different things. But if you're stacking
To
up
to
these
Bernal's
things,
credit, that
yeah.
that tree Mizzy that he did was pretty flawless from what
And
I can remember.
missing the sole foot on that would be the most disgusting feeling. It feels horrible
You throw
missing a
yourself
true,
down it
yeah,
like this.
yeah,
Fucking hell, man.
yeah. You're just
I can't even imagine.
doing a true miss on a little ledge. There's still an element of like half expecting that foot not to find its home and that
Yeah.
weird feeling. And all it does is roll on the floor and you're fine. But like doing it on that thing,
Ah, but
it
if it
is
goes
it.
on top, you can do
Yeah,
that thing where you kind of like swing round. Um,
yeah.
and that's how I popped my shin open on a angle iron ledge is doing a tree miz. I think it was three tree miz, and the foot went on top and just swept out,
Ugh.
had me spinning round. And like the vision, I think the thing that's scary about that forum ledge as well is the stairs at the top are just totally flat. There's nothing to tell you on the way up where the ledge is. Wouldn't
Yes.
So you
That,
can kind of hit that ledge like completely neutral.
hmm.
So there is a fear. There's a fucking fear that you like hit the end of the ledge, right?
Oh,
Because
like
you're not,
yes, like case it almost is like to use that
it's
term.
just
Yeah.
horrendous. I remember looking at it and just like the heart just starts beating like really fast, as if I was even going to try it, but
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
jumping onto that is just insane. Um, but and what's totally fucked is I watched that Brosco clip of him doing the front side to back side probably 50 times in a row, and I've watched the Carlos Bernal edit just the once, and I probably skipped the tree miss
Yeah,
back a couple of times to watch it.
I've not even watched
Um,
the full part. I watched the start and I was like, oh, I know this. And then I
how did he finish?
skipped to the last
It's
skip.
good though. It's his best one by far.
Yes, I can see that. I can definitely see that. But it is skating's amazing. It's not even put together poorly, but it is like as straight up straightforward. Here is a skate park. Skate park, sorry. We're going to show you the obstacle from this angle. He's going to grind it. We might even cut to another angle, like while he's going, like just every. You've seen it. I've seen it a billion times. That thing. There's no like voice or vision to it. I don't
And
feel.
it's hard as well because that style of skating that he does, that he's very, very, very good at. Um, there's been people that have been that good in that same way
Hmm.
for quite a long time, and I think that's a real challenge for him, and it's why someone like we talked about like Cam Talbot, but also someone like Nils who are just able to find ways of doing quite a lot of the same sort of stuff,
Hmm. Hmm.
but just finding a different kind of angle of doing it or presenting it in a way that's just is different enough because I've at some point I should probably try and work out how many hours of rollerblading I've watched. But if you can assume
Be a
I've watched
lot.
10 minutes a day for 25 years, and it's probably a lot more than that,
Yeah.
uh, it's fucking this a solid percentage of my life.
And
And
that and that's why you can be picky about it, and that's why you're looking for these little details because you understand the difference between two people doing the same grind on a similar obstacle, but somebody made a choice and somebody didn't make a choice, and you whatever that little choice is, maybe it's maybe not even the skater's choice, it's maybe the filmer's choice or something like that, or just
yeah,
something that just makes it feel like it is not like stock footage of rollerblading, which
yeah.
is what the burnout part feels a wee bit to me. It feels like it's kind of like I like
I think it's better than that, but I know what you mean.
yeah.
I think he's been guilty of doing that kind of like almost by numbers skate park. This definitely
Oh,
felt
I
better.
don't I'm being too harsh on the guy. Like
No, I know, I know, I
we
know,
put
I
it
know what
on
you
the
mean.
site,
You're
but
making them.
like yeah, like it
I did put
doesn't.
it on the site because I was like, this is. Um,
It's a noteworthy
do you know?
thing.
Do you know
It's
my?
yeah.
Do you know what my fear is though? Is kind of talking about that like bulk standard. we pick a song, we put the tricks to it because it's quite easy and that format works
Hmm.
and it's fine. Um, but I guess that's my fear of skating at the moment, particularly thinking about how with all the tariff stuff and the way sort of stock levels look to be at the moment. And this is probably why I'm slightly tuning out of like giving a shit, but I still do give a shit. But like, um, my fear is that there are a handful of people and videographers and skaters that are just constantly trying to find ways to make this stuff really interesting and engaging and kind of keep the bar really, really high. And there's a lot of people and companies who aren't.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and my risk is the industry is going to thin. It almost has to. There's so many different brands, and I really don't think that the numbers there to support it. And then let's say the tariff thing doesn't get resolved for a year. How many companies will survive not selling stock in the
Yeah.
States for a year? Because no one wants to import into the States because, a pair of Aeons is going to be like 700 quid or something. Um, so we'll do fine in Europe, but all stock from all the brands is going to come to Europe, right? And if they were going to sell 5,000 pairs of skates and that was going to be split 50-50 between Europe and the States, all of
Yeah.
those skates are coming here now, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be flooded with stuff. And then you end up in a price war where the price goes down. And then the States has got like very little. And what's going to happen, what could happen, I suppose, is the industry thins
Hmm.
and some
Hmm.
really kind of high quality players drop out
Hmm.
and what you're left with is a disproportionately high number of like skate park 360 cam kind of content quagmire
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just quite low effort. Um, and
That's
when you look at that kind of soul edit, when you look at the newest Mesmer one, if you look at the kind of like the Anthony Marchioni Dem Skates one, I thought was just one of my favorite things I'd seen in
yeah.
ages. Just
Looking
kind of like
back
this
through
hurricane ball of meat.
my answer to Bratty's still winning for me with his solo part.
Bratties, right?
Yeah, that's still winning
But
for me, and that'll be hard to beat
it's
for my favorite thing this year, I would say. But
yeah,
yeah, the Rosie's one is up there, and yeah, all the Mesmer stuff's been really good. Um, there's good stuff.
there's loads of good stuff. I guess it's like how long do you sustain that when the market
It's
is
going to
just
be a
really
funny
tough?
year. Like if we get through 2025 and it's more or less the same and there's still good stuff happening and everyone you kind of care about is still surviving, then rollerblading's doing better than I thought it was. I might take it as a weirdly positive sign. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
like I didn't expect that would handle that, but yeah, it's hard to imagine right now. It's hard to imagine not something significant not happening this year. Um, yeah, but I like there's a wee bit of it where I'm just enjoying being ignorant of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I just to use I just can't. I just can't. Like, you just like I just, what the fuck does me stressing about
There's
this
no
help?
reason for us to stress at all. Like you said, you've got all the skates you need. Um, I definitely bought an extra pair of skates because I was like, like mediums are quite hard to come across these days, and who
I'm
knows when
yeah,
John wants to put an offer, put some skates on the water and get them over here. It could
yeah.
be a while. So,
I'm
um,
slightly considering doing that now. I'm back in a kind of the not so extra smalls that I was ready just to dismiss entirely. I've been feeling really good. So I'm like, all right, is this now? Do I need a second pair of these to be like, all this absolute because they're not
they're
easy
the
to
same
come
as
by.
mediums.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's,
hard to find them, and I tried Chris's T-neck skate. It's the first new skate I've tried in 2 years, and it was really nice to just be like, this feels like a normal skate.
yeah,
I could
yeah,
skate it. If I couldn't get a pair of mediums, I'd buy a pair of T-necks, and
yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to send them back to him. But it was just a really nice kind of exercise of like it's two skates that I could picture
Yeah.
skating.
Yeah.
It's a good skate actually, and it was
They look nice. Like,
my first two pairs of aggressive skates was that boot mold. So there's definitely something nostalgic about looking down at it. But
okay. I'm seeing we've got a question here. Have you seen Nathan's asked something in
no, I didn't.
our little wee bit where we chat?
What do you want to
He's
know, Nath?
Let's see. Whether we yeah, let's do like, let's just kind of keep things. It's nice to get a question from somebody. So Nathan says, I just wanted your takes on the older skateboarder or blader at the park. What do you think or feel when you see older skaters, and do you feel yourself as being the older skater at the skate park? Do you care what people think of you in those moments or not at all? And sorry if you covered this already. So, being the older person versus seeing older people at the skate park, what's your opinion? Do you have an opinion? Do you have a feel?
My skate park's full of older skateboarders. Um, so it's totally normalized. Here, there's like a squad of um, dad skateboarders that are pretty good. Jack
hmm
Patriga's kind of one of that crew. You might know Jack Patriga. He's like
It's not
well
ringing a
known.
bell as a name,
Skates for
but
Yes Fam, and
okay.
he's been in some good video. I mean, he's amazing. But like the whole Yes Fam thing is based here.
I
So
don't
they're
even
kind
know
of
that. That's a blind spot for me. Is that this
it's
a
cool. It's like a
okay?
little core little sort of brand, but it's very cool.
Okay.
So it's totally normal. So when I go to the skate park, I don't feel. I think I still feel like I move around the skate park like a like someone who's younger than I am. I
Hmm.
don't think my body doesn't feel stiff when when I skate. Some people who are older may look a bit stiffer when they skate, and I still feel quite fluid.
Hmm.
Um, I think when
Yeah,
that goes,
you
I'll
skate. You
probably
don't have like old guys. Like you skate like you know. But you know what I mean by that. Like there
yeah,
is like some so and so's getting older kind of style. Like you've seen that with a lot of older skateboarder pros. Like you definitely that seems to be a thing that happens a lot in skateboarding. Is like the pop just goes. Like they just don't
right.
have that spark to and everything just gets lower and kind of but yeah, no, same, I think. I it comes up every now and again. There's two kind of funny things. Like whenever I skate in Glasgow or somewhere that's bigger, then it's like everyone's used to seeing older skaters. Like that's just not a thing. My local parks are just kind of not so well used and not really used that by anyone that seriously. So it is often younger crowds are the people who are using it. It'll be the people who are at high school or maybe we're a university town, so you'll get a kind of steady stream of like university students will realize the town has a skate park and they'll spend a year or two becoming regulars at the park. And so
But do you get
our
a lot of people just riding around on bikes, or
yeah, a
just
little
kind of
bit,
like
yeah, a lot of
they're playing on it rather than
yeah, a lot of scooters
sessioning it?
doing that and bikes doing that. Yeah. So I definitely am the oldest regular user of the park. And like I'm there enough that I do speak to a few of the kids on and off. And any time it has come up, everyone has seemed genuinely surprised that I'm like in my 40s.
Yeah,
So
you look younger, and I think you probably dress a bit younger as well. Like you
yeah, I
would
think
probably,
so.
for most people, pass for early young 30s, probably,
I'll take it.
right?
I'll take it. I'll take it, like any of it. But
You
like
bet.
also, I've had a long joke. Being short, I think you get an automatic
Yep,
like you're younger. Like I'd still if somebody's taller than me, I still think they're older than me. Like it's
yep.
some inbuilt kid thing. There's that, but to kind of put another spin on the question, I kind of there's a funny pride I sometimes feel about being older and still being able to do it, especially if there's like a parent sat at the side. Like parents sat at the side totally fine, like, but when the parent is like sat on the phone, out of shape, kind of, especially if they're not being super nice to their kid. Like, hurry up, I want to get home. And like, if they're being
Yeah,
an art,
yeah,
I'm suddenly like, God, like, what's the alternative? Like, everyone's going to get
yeah,
older. Like, everyone young who might have any kind of thought about an older person being at the it's like, oh, sorry, you're going to be old one day too, you know.
yeah,
So what's the option? The option is either I can be fit enough to do this thing and enjoy doing it, or what, not do it just for
yeah.
no real reason. So there's
I feel the
that.
same,
Yeah.
particularly if I'm skating and my kids are skating as well. And I
Hmm.
actually don't love skating. It depends what I'm trying to get from the session. Like if I
Hmm.
go with Ren, he's 5, or Rue, that's 11, my mindset's totally different. I'm probably just doing some cardio and,
Yeah.
you know, doing a few royals or whatever, but I can set up little games with them, or we can like, the park's quiet, we'll have a little race, or we'll kind of have a really like low level game of skate, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's my kids are seeing me do this stuff. It's the same as like playing football with them and actually being
Hmm.
able to like boot the ball at them hard, and like, sort of, I think it's important they see you do stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, I feel the same way. It's like I'd much rather do this stuff with my kids, or set an example that they can just do it as well.
Yeah. We often try and frame. I often frame it in a kind of. I like the way I like spin it with Thea doesn't care, she's still too little, but Beth, I kind of often spin it as like, look, I acknowledge that this is kind of silly and a bit unusual that I do this compared to a lot of people, but then to be like, I do it because I really like it and it keeps me fit. And like just all those a message you'd get from like a Disney film is like do the thing you care about and don't really worry about what other people think and stuff like that. Like you can get those kind of messages out of it as well as also just be like sometimes we'll get involved in it. Like Threa, I sometimes call her that because she's three, like that's her wee nickname. Um, but also she was doing wee 360s on the couch, like really well, like just as like she's really kind of physical
Yeah,
and she was doing it. I was like, whoa, that's like I do on skating. We were getting into talking about it and like when you do
yeah,
that and she was like really buzzing on it. So having a healthy thing, like I will talk about how much I like it, and if they see me watching it, I'll be like, what do you think of this? And I'll show them like and
yeah, yeah,
I don't want to completely dismiss my hobby, but I don't well, there's also some version of serious blader dad who like tries to show their kids how cool it is and like
yeah.
talks like it's a deadly
I've stopped
serious
even
thing. Like
remotely trying to convince my kids that it's cool.
it
If they
won't
think
work.
it's
Like
cool, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Um, I do you know, I was thinking about this the other day because I was listening to this podcast with Peter from Adapt, and how he smashed his leg to pieces. And he was skating a pump track on like big wheel skates, and part of me was a bit like, yeah, that skate is going to break your leg because it's like this high.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was like, I've managed to sort of dodge most serious injuries in skating. I've broken a few bits and pieces, and but nothing kind of like really kind of life altering.
Hmm.
Um, and a big part of that is luck, because I've
Yeah,
definitely done stuff that I could have had potentially kind of life altering things. And you can also have life altering falls on really small stuff. Um, Heal up quick, Tom Moyes. Hope the
yeah,
elbows.
yeah.
But
Chris as
like,
well had a rough
Chris,
one. Yeah.
it's a
And
good trick as well. I hope when he's feeling better, he can go back and get that. Um, but I think I've spent most of my life skating at like a kind of 6 out of 10. I've
hmm.
never like redlined it. I may have had periods where I kind of redlined it, but mostly I've skated within my limits and paid the rent, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
and I think the flip side of that is longevity, being able to basically just do it my entire life. Um, and the other sort of bit of that is that as I stop being able to do certain things, I don't really mind. It
Hmm.
it it kind of there's new different bits that I've started exploring or whatever. So
There's that Andrew Reynolds thing I shared recently where he's on some podcast talking about it, and he's talking about getting older as like a as top a tier professional skateboarder as you could ever get. And his
yeah,
attitude is so good. He's like what's hard for me today? What's fun for me to figure out today? Like,
yeah.
and what's satisfying to figure out today? And that's totally just the mindset to be in is just
It's
like,
the only way to do it, I
yeah.
think. Um, and I think it's I get why people kind of stop skating in certain ways, and then if they can't skate in that certain way, they don't want to skate at all
Hmm.
anymore. And
Hmm.
I kind of get that. I think for me, I'm glad that I kind of in hindsight, I think the path that's led me down has been good
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
I think it's really nice to have something kind of like long term consistent that I've just always found ways to enjoy. Um,
It's just about using
so
your
yeah,
brain, isn't it? And thinking about like I thought about how I quit after 3 years the first time round, and a big part of it was kind of being bored with it. And I've probably brought it up on this before. I definitely remember just being at the local skate park one just kind of afternoon when I either had the afternoon off school or we had like free periods or whatever. I had a bit and just being like, this, I'm just here because I come here. It's just the thing I do. And like having going through a few motions and being like, probably just go home. I was probably in a bit of a kind of lost little period of my life, that kind of
um,
bored little way you can be as a kind of teenager, where everything feels a bit like every day is like Sunday kind of vibes. But now, like, I'm fairly, like, I don't like my local skate park at all. I feel like I've rinsed it pretty dry, but yeah, I can still go anytime and think of something. And it's all
um,
just like the only thing that's really changed. Like, I was able to kind of, not that I ever went big, but I was able to go bigger way back when. But I just didn't think of anything, like now I can just like yeah, I'll confident I'll never run out of ideas to try within my abilities, even in a park
I
that I
think
don't like very much. And then as soon as you're somewhere with new stuff, you're like, whoa, like it's
yeah,
completely re-energized.
it's really interesting how that stuff kind of plays out because didn't you weren't set up when you were younger to sort of be like you probably quit just as people started like spinning into grinds and kind of doing some of the really technical stuff. It was impossible to skate and to not do that
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that was the only route open to you. There was one route, there was one set of videos, there
yeah.
was, two magazines that were one of them copied the other one, and it was just sort of like it was impossible to skate and to kind of carve your own lane.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously now it's not, you've got far wider set of influences and you can kind of pick any lane you want, but it's really, really hard when you're kind of like that age and the whole thing that you're interested in is just
Yeah,
pure tunnel vision.
yeah.
Um, that was a really tough period to get through for me. I kind of fell into doing lots of that stuff, but it was it's a really weird time. Um,
But yeah.
anyway, Nate, I hope that answers your question about being
Feels good. I think it's
an older
I think
guy.
it's a good thing because what is the other option? You're either not fit enough to do it or you don't love it enough to want to do it. So then that's a bigger problem. Or you're embarrassed by it enough that you don't do it. And then that's another kind of I kind of get that. Like, it's another thing about being older. Like, that's one of the cliches of being older is you do stop caring a little bit as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well, your
like,
capacity to care about stuff goes down massively as well because you just
yeah.
get swallowed up with work and paying bills. And, if you've got kids, it is really difficult to kind of continue to be a sort of functioning, independent thinking, interested, like definitely. I mean, I would say I've come out of that, but it's not really for me to judge. But I definitely became a like far less interesting person when we had kids,
Hmm.
because your focus just your whole world narrows to this kind of like
Every
how
conversation
do
I
I just
have
get
with
through the next
another,
12
yeah.
hours, like
And anytime I walk through, I'm in a kind of arts building here, so I chat to people on the way in and out, and like it's only fairly recently where it's like if somebody asks me how I'm doing, like to not just like just talk about kids, and it'll be
oh
somebody
I'm
who doesn't
knackered,
have kids, yeah.
yeah,
It'll be something, and it's like they don't, nobody cares about your kid, like, but you
yeah.
do, like that's just our whole world, and we were talking. I was talking. We were out last night, and we had a rare night out because there was like an art opening, and it was nice to be out and like really try and not to just talk about the kids whenever we were like kind of bumped into somebody. And then,
Should make that like a rule as well that like when you do get those little breaks to just
yeah,
not do it, because it's like it's so easy to fall into it. Me and Emma were talking the other night. We were sat in the garden, little one was in bed, and we had a little fire going in the garden. The weather was beautiful, and we kind of like the sun came down. And we just sat in the garden, but we were talking about like my kid going to secondary school and kind of like what that's. And I was like, we could have just sat out here and talked about something else. We can have
yeah,
that conversation
yeah,
like over breakfast tomorrow.
yeah.
Um,
It's
it's
hard. Yeah, we've kind of or work stuff like Alex has a lot going on at work as well, and like it can be easy for we try and sit down for a proper like meal on a Friday night with some wine, and we try and yeah, like not let's try and not talk too much about work and not talk too much about
yeah,
the kids. And sometimes just like it almost takes a wee bit of a pre-planning of like let's find a topic here that we can kind of dig into a little bit that isn't one of those
yeah,
two things. And that's all it needs. Like we've been together long enough that like there's no danger of not having something to talk about. But like
yeah,
you need the wee starter thing that will then steer the whole evening's conversations away from
yeah,
work, kids, house stuff
yeah.
towards whatever it could be, ideas and films and you know anything. Yeah, but that's just I.
You got to try
Yeah.
with that stuff. Like some of my sort of best times with Emma have been like when we're in the car driving home from like her parents, whatever, it's like 2 hours.
Hmm.
One of the kids is asleep, the other one's got his headphones on. And if we manage to like start the conversation like not about kids,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's actually a really enjoyable time as much as like being in the car can be. Um,
Well, there's a summary as our time runs out. We started off by talking about how like if you start your work day out properly, it steers it in a certain direction that goes
yeah,
well. Probably if you start a skate session with the right attitude and the right thinking, it will go better than not.
do you ever
Um,
have bad sessions, Dave? Do you ever come home and you're just like, fucking hell, that was shit. I hated that.
no,
That ever
not
happened?
really.
I had that
Not,
with basketball the other night, but I don't have it with skating.
I could see that with something like basketball. Yeah, but like that stuff like that is never, that would just frustrate me any kind of a little bit like mostly if I'm really trying to if I'm working on one of my projects and I'm trying to get a trick. Like that's a different kind of like, oh, I didn't enjoy that session because you don't get the satisfaction. Like I might have worked on something for an hour and I didn't get it. That can be
Yeah,
that's not the same as a bad session though, because I've probably worked really hard and I'll have that kind of drained feeling. But like in terms of going out and being a bit like, that just not feeling it. Not so much. It takes like the skate park. Some evening ones end up like that. Like if I sometimes get a wee window on a Friday evening where I'll go to the park and it's a wee bit busier than it would be, and it'll be like people will be kind of drinking a wee bit there, and there's just not enough space to kind of
Yeah,
get into it, and the energy's all a bit weird than that. But that's not like if I had an empty spot, yeah, it's rare I'll have a bad session. Like if I've got a spot to
yeah,
myself or a park to myself, then I'll always I'm good at redirecting. If something's not working, I'll find something else to do quite quickly. And I kind of do that quite automatically. And sometimes it can be like, oh, I was here to like just enjoy the space. And somehow, if that's not working, it's like, oh, I guess you know what I'm now going to do? I'm going to like completely shift to like, now I'm going to practice something. And
yeah.
that can sometimes work, like just shifting that all happens. You're not bad. You get out and always kind of spring about.
Do you know my worst thing is skating Lloyd Park, which is the kind of like plaza park that I go to sometimes, the one I went to most recently. If there's skateboarders there, they're fine, but I just fucking hate skating there because they use the park differently.
Hmm.
I'm outnumbered and I just feel like I'm kind of in their way. I can't wax anything, and that park needs a lot of wax for it to be fun for me. Um, and I remember I cycled there one lunchtime, like really juiced the skate, and I saw there was like eight of them there, and I just whoosh, turned the bike around and went
Oh,
home.
mate.
Shot the ball in the garden for a while, and that was kind of what I did. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a bad skate, so I'm just not gonna do it.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but I haven't had like a genuinely bad skate for a while. We're running out of time.
Yeah, that's good. No, that worked. Look, we did it. We
We
did
did
an
it.
ep. We don't think we need to edit much for this one either. We can just like pep it up and it's done. Easy.
Done.
Right, let's make the next one happen sooner. Um, provided this one works okay. And
Okay.
then we're back on it. We're back on a rhythm.
Let's go.
Right, nice to speak to you.
Yeah, good to see you, Dave.
See you
In a bit.
later. Right.
Bye.